American cities today share many common problems: physical decay and human alienation, a movement away from a central business district, away from the city itself, a fragmenting of life and activity, a breakdown in transportation needed to hold the city together, and a deterioration in the system of government and citizens' confidence in it, and in the communications between groups and individuals so necessary to a sense of human community. All these forces are at work in Indianapolis, just as in every other urban center in the nation today. But still, some cities seem to be moving ahead, while others have apparently given up, awaiting only the official certification of death. What is it about a city that causes it to continue growing, while some are losing population? What is it about a city that gives it a feeling of optimism, while others convey a sense of defeat? What is it about a city that enables it to succeed where others seem to be failing? The causes are complex, and some are not even fully understood. But Indianapolis, Indiana is one of those cities where, in the face of problems, things seem to be moving in the right direction, and where a sense of enthusiasm is building. What is it about Indianapolis? Let's try to analyze some success factors. Indianapolis is the nation's 11th largest city, and it's the commercial, governmental, and geographic center of Indiana. The city has a population of nearly 750,000. The metropolitan area exceeds 1 million. Like other urban centers, Indianapolis has not escaped a share of poverty, racism, pollution, slum housing, crime, and urban decay. Willingness to admit these problems and to tackle them with government and private leadership has intensified only in the last decade. More recently, a newly invigorated attitude has existed, and citizens, business, and government are engaged in many joint efforts to find solutions to difficult problems. There is a determination to create in Indianapolis a big city that's attractive, comfortable, prosperous, safe, and fun. A conscious attempt to avoid the pitfalls of many urban centers. Some of the results of this community effort you can only sense from the people living here, but many you can see. When you ask what it is about Indianapolis that now makes it a city on the move, one obvious ingredient is its downtown.
I've lived here about a year now. I moved here from Atlanta, Georgia. What I've seen over the year, the convention center and all, it's grown quite a bit.
About 150 years ago, Indianapolis was created as a brand new town, literally carved out of the wilderness, pre-planned by Alexander Ralston, who had assisted in the planning of the nation's capital. At the time, lot lines and broad avenues were cut through dense forest, and even Ralston had some doubts about his master city plan ever becoming a reality. Indianapolis owes its central location and resulting accessibility to this pre-planning, which resulted in an orderly growth pattern for the city. Ralston's plan, with the circle at its center, still gives a distinctive and unifying design to downtown Indianapolis, where millions of dollars of public and private capital are being invested in beautiful new buildings. Buildings where people work, where people can find lodging, where people may entertain or be entertained. The new downtown construction includes the City-County building, the State Office building, the City Education Center, the new Post Office building, a Convention and Exposition Center, 6th largest in the nation. But investments of public funds alone won't create a new and vital downtown, and they haven't in Indianapolis. Private development has been equally important, as have a number of private individuals, as explained by the Executive Vice President of the Chamber of Commerce, Carl Dortch.
The great things happening in Indianapolis are not accidental. First, the economy of this community is soundly based, and this attracts investors. Secondly, there's an unusual, close, cooperative working relationship between the public and private sector, between the governmental leaders of Indianapolis community and the business leaders of this area. And third, there's emerging within the business community itself a new leadership that has verve, vitality, and imagination, and saying, we have a great community. Let's get on and tell others about it, so that no longer will Indianapolis have a bland image, but we'll be able to tell others, as well as ourselves, that we have a unique quality of life in this great city.
The CIC Corporation acquired Indianapolis Morris Plan in 1971. Their interest in Indianapolis is explained by the new president, Leonard Rockwager.
The people in Indianapolis were highly motivated and exhibited a deep sense of community pride. It revealed itself in the progressive leadership of the community and in its rehabilitation of its downtown area versus many other cities whose downtown area is choked and continues to go downhill.
City government has tried to aid private investment. Union Station has now been acquired by the city for eventual resale to private investors. Several have expressed an interest. And the old Lincoln Hotel, another city landmark, will soon come down to make way for what's become known as the Lincoln Square project. Again, the city government has acted as a catalyst to revitalize a blighted section of the central business district. Merchants National Bank sparked the formation of Lincoln Square Associates, which will provide a $45 million investment in a new hotel, as well as office and apartment units, all directly adjacent to the new Convention and Exposition Center. Lincoln Square could become the biggest single private investment ever in downtown Indianapolis. Downtown buildings create an urban skyline. They give the feeling of a big city, and they provide many of the amenities of urban life. But tall buildings don't make a progressive city. People do. Even a central business district that's alive and attractive offers only visual evidence of a deeper community vitality. One of the reasons people live in cities or close to them is for the jobs, the employment they offer. Indianapolis has consciously fostered a diversified economy that's providing for the residents of the community higher than average incomes and low unemployment. Over-reliance on a single industry has caused problems for some major American cities. Stability is provided in Indianapolis by a wide range of jobs in several types of heavy industry, in automobiles and auto parts and supplies, in electronics and other consumer goods, in all types of insurance, in retailing, in government, local, state, and federal. And in pharmaceuticals, Eli Lilly and Company has recently put several $1 million into new facilities in an older section of the city. The reasons for their commitment to the inner city are explained by the chairman of the board, Eugene Beasley.
After making the decision to stay in the inner city, we came to the conclusion that in order to fulfill our responsibilities, that we would need to have a constant interest and a constant desire to try to improve conditions of our neighbors in the inner city. This has led us to carry on several programs, in fact quite a few programs, for benefiting our friends and neighbors around us.
With its construction of the new bank tower, the Indiana National Bank is one of the heaviest investors in downtown Indianapolis, as explained by Chairman of the Board, J. Fred Risk.
Obviously, we were somewhat alone when the project started. There were the usual crepe hangers around the city that prophesized dismal days for our rental program. We're happy to say that most of them have proven to be wrong. Our building is more than 90% rented and occupied. In fact, it's occupied substantially beyond the projections we had for this date, 2 years after completion. We think that having met our goals, we have perhaps met some goals for the city in proving that private reinvestment downtown is economically feasible, that it's rewarding to the investors, and that it's worthwhile. And we're strongly convinced that we intend to continue, and we hope that many others will as well.
Geography and planning play an important role in orderly city growth. American Fletcher National Bank President Frank McKinney Jr. explains.
Indianapolis is like a wheel with the hub being our monument circle, and from the circle the city radiates in all directions and in a fairly well-balanced situation. This in itself, with excellent highways, with the fact that the north side, the south side, the east side, and the west side all are growing in and of themselves, both commercially, residentially, and in an industrial capacity.
As long as Indianapolis and other cities rely on the property tax for most revenue, new buildings creating additional tax base are essential to raising money to deal with human needs, such as education and poverty, as noted by the Director of Research at Methodist Hospital, Dr. Frank Lloyd.
I believe for cities today, the most important thing for them to have, of course, is intelligent political leadership. I think that Indianapolis has that. I think the other thing, of course, is that we must redirect the growth of the city and increase the growth of the inner city. By doing that, I don't think we should look at the dispersal of the poor and the black into the suburbs as much as we should look at bringing into our city, bringing back to our cities, industry and whites and middle-class blacks. I believe that when we look for the quality of life, the fragile things as parks and schools, we cannot really do those things well unless we have a good tax base. We cannot have a tax base if we disperse our industry and disperse our good residential areas out of the city.
Today, when anyone asks, what is it about Indianapolis? There is almost invariably a reference to the role of government, local, state, or federal. In recent years, the federal government has helped greatly with money for public housing, urban renewal, comprehensive planning, and more recently, the Model City Program, Operation Breakthrough, and the Community Services Program. But most other big cities were seeking and getting federal help long before Indianapolis. In this city, the difference is the new role of local government under a unified government called Unigov. On the theory that most urban problems are community-wide in scope, Unigov was designed to be community-wide government to deal with them. The old city and its suburbs were consolidated and governmental structure streamlined under the new plan. On January 1st, 1970, the city increased in size from 82 to 402 square miles overnight and boosted the population from 500,000 to about 800,000, moving Indianapolis from 26th to the 11th largest city in the nation. 4 communities in Marion County retained their governmental powers. Unigov provides the framework for a simplified, area-wide government with authority for expanding police, fire, and sanitary services to the entire area as citizens request them and the city can provide them. City government is now more understandable and responsive to the citizens. This was accomplished by replacing a confusing maze of boards, commissions, and agencies with 6 cabinet departments. Mayor Richard Lugar, who inspired the effort to obtain the unified form of government, feels the mayor's job is more workable and government is more responsive under Unigov.
First of all, in terms of responsive government, we found that at least 200,000 citizens call or write to us or come in person each year to this office on the 25th floor and ask for individual requests of service or make comments on how our government might be more efficient, on how our city might progress, or indicate opinions as citizens on how the world is going and on how we ought to operate if we're to make a response that's meaningful for life in the future of our children in this community. We respond to each one of these requests, each one of these letters, and each time we do so, we establish credibility with at least one more citizen who knows that local government cares. And this is extremely important because the whole delivery system of government in the United States of America is suspect. We've tried to provide a full employment economy. And the unemployment rate has been lower in Indianapolis than any other urban area in our state, much lower than the national rate throughout all the periods, good and bad, of the last few years. And this is important because the pie is getting larger for people, and they're more prosperous. They have more jobs. They're coming to this area. They give a sense of growth and vitality. And this is extremely important. Then it seems to me that we are making these decisions on an interdisciplinary level. That is, parks people talking to roads people, to works people, to planning people, all at the same time. Not as separate governments as they did before, but with a clearly defined mayor and an executive system, a clearly defined council and legislative system, with checks and balances back and forth, with the public knowing where to go to get the job done and where the priorities of society are laid on the table all at one time together. We've built up at least 64 neighborhood working relationships in which people come to the mayor's office each Thursday afternoon, and they tick off the things that are important to them now, that can make a difference in living conditions in their neighborhoods. But they have some idea of the problems that exist in all neighborhoods and the things that they have in common. And these are extremely important facets, not only in individual credibility, but in holding the whole fabric of society together. We need to have signals from every neighborhood to know how others care and feel. And because of this, we are able to do great things in our community.
City government and the people have benefited greatly from a close tie with the Greater Indianapolis Progress Committee, a vehicle for citizen involvement in community affairs. The Progress Committee is privately funded, but since its inception, it's been responsive to city government efforts to deal with community problems. It's action-oriented, with citizen task forces, each with a specific project. The record of the Progress Committee is impressive. Task forces have succeeded in many areas, such as drug abuse control, transportation, minority business development, housing and relocation, aging, job creation, and cultural development. An Indianapolis realtor who has served as president of the National Association of Real Estate Boards has helped to encourage new investment capital in downtown Indianapolis. Mr. F.C. Tucker.
We are now the 11th largest city in the nation. A lot of people don't realize this, even in our hometown. When you see such magnificent things as the Indiana Bank Tower, the Hilton Hotel, the Convention and Exposition Center, the plans for Lincoln Square, the sports arena, which is already underway, when you see the plans for Union Square revitalized, you see that people are concerned about what's going to happen in our inner city.
In this day and age, it takes the courage, the imagination, and the cooperation of many persons to turn a big city around. In the opinion of knowledgeable observers, Indianapolis is getting that from its city government and from a new generation of business and civic leaders. Their ideas and their enthusiasm for the community have generated a feeling of optimism, almost a feeling of success, though much remains to be done. This enthusiasm is exemplified in other groups of people who are making a vital contribution to the new vigor of Indianapolis. They are the philanthropists, the foundations, the fundraisers, and the other contributors of money. The kind of people who've given the community Clues Hall for the performing arts and the new Indianapolis Museum of Art, initially located on 42 acres of wooded estate donated by the J.K. Lilly family. Now, through gifts and purchases, the museum site exceeds 150 acres. Both Clues Hall and the Museum of Art were built entirely without the use of tax money, a tribute to the type of community support that can be found in Indianapolis today. And when a public television station was finally established in Indianapolis in 1970, that also was done with private contributions, many of them small donations raised by an army of over 9,000 women who went door to door to get the job done. An important force in the future development of the city is the new state university, Indiana University, Purdue University at Indianapolis, which is growing up on an urban campus only a few blocks from the heart of downtown. While it's a public university, an affiliated graduate-level research center is to be built with $6 million in private funds, including major gifts and money raised by a committee of businessmen. Also, while public funds were being used to construct the new indoor sports arena, twin office towers and parking facilities for the arena were private ventures. Historic City Market has been preserved and enhanced amidst the new development.
That constitutes a good pork chop.
Elsewhere in the community, other people are working hard to give a new spirit and vitality to the lives and neighborhoods of the poor and the disadvantaged. Indianapolis was a long holdout against using federal funds for any type of social welfare program. But growing needs and new leaders brought a change of attitude. Today, using money from local and federal sources, private groups and city officials are working together to alleviate human suffering and overcome the effects of years of discrimination. It will be difficult to determine whether Indianapolis is doing more than other cities to eliminate poverty and racism. Indianapolis is not utopia. It's a city with problems, but she is challenged, not buried by her problems, inspired by past and current successes, and confident that success will continue. We have taken a broad look at some of the factors of success in urban problem solving using Indianapolis as a case study. We've seen that she was a planned city from her beginning in the central Indiana forest 150 years ago, and that the original master plan is still intact with wide boulevards and open spaces. Central location, enhanced by the national road and the railroad network, brought early success. Today, accessibility and prosperity are aided by the convergence of more radials of different interstate highway than any other city, and an expanding airport on the verge of international status. Indianapolis industry is stable and diversified, resulting in low unemployment through the years. But as we have seen, the extra ingredient for success is leadership. Personal, cultural, business, educational, social, and governmental. People have made the difference. The mechanisms which bring together supposedly diverse and hostile segments of the population are exemplified by Unigov, enlightened efforts of the business community, church groups, a host of community health and welfare agencies, and neighborhood associations, all touching individual lives and knitting a strong fabric of community. Social frictions occur in all urban areas, including Indianapolis, but they are absorbed here to a greater degree by a web of community, thus avoiding some abrasions and mitigating others. The vitality of vigorous leadership helps make the difference between urban success and failure. Government alone cannot solve many urban dilemmas. Citizens alone often have trouble moving a community to action. But when government and citizens join together, a city's capacity to move ahead improves dramatically. It is this unique combination of geographic, historical, economic, governmental, and human factors which fosters a sense of optimism in Indianapolis, which builds a feeling of unity against a background of urban fragmentation in too many American cities. No one is yet willing to claim victory over the forces which rip the fabric of urban life. But Indianapolis is one city that's not going downhill. There is solid basis for the hope that Indianapolis has found a winning combination.
I'm going to stick around and see how it grows.